Welcome and thank you for joining us for the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. Now, many of us have been consuming food dye for decades. According to Dr. Danish of Arch Point Pain Institute, it can have an impact on your health in the long term. Let's take a listen.
Isaiah, what we're realizing is that all these studies that have recently been done, there is an increased link between cancers and carcinogenic agents that are found in some of these chemicals and some of these dyes that are linked and associated with an increased risk. These are the same materials and the same dyes that are available in candies, cereal, and even some beverages. And so now what the FDA is doing is we are researching this even further and saying that there should be some of these colors, specifically some of these food dyes, that should be removed and should not be added in these products that normally would have given it a taste or a color, like some of those Fruit Loops that we see that have different colors. A lot of those come from different food dyes.
You're picking on my favorite cereal, Dr. Ali.
You're going to have to use the ones without colors now, Isaiah. No, but in all reality, though, we need to be careful of these dyes and some of these materials that they're putting in cereals and beverages. And so FDA is really now cutting down on that and enforcing rules where they need to either minimize or eliminate some of those potentially carcinogenic substances that can cause problems and be a higher risk for cancer. We know, Isaiah, there are risk factors that we can do that can lower our chances for cancer, whether it be diet, your obesity, other medical comorbidities. And so this is just one piece of the puzzle that the FDA is now cracking down on to see if we can reduce and eliminate these dyes.
Now, when we talk about causing cancer for people out there, we're not talking about like instantaneously. We're talking about down the road. So there is still a grace period where you can stop, I would assume.
That's correct, Isaiah. There is, and you're right. It doesn't just happen immediately or the first time you eat Fruit Loops and now you're at a significantly higher risk. What we've noticed is that there's that association. And so with United States being at a very high risk for multiple different cancers, and we are one of the highest countries that has the highest amount of cancers per capita. And so that's why it's reducing and trying to eliminate some of these risk factors that can potentially lower our risk and lower our chances to get these cancers.
Now, one of the things you mentioned when you talk about cereal, you're talking about candy, you're talking about sodas, immediately children come
That's
to mind.
correct.
And
That's
so,
correct.
I mean, how do we deal with that when it could directly impact the next generation?
Yeah, and we start at a young age, right, Isaiah? So that's why some of the recommendations they've made are to schools specifically. So in the cafeterias where some of these substances were previously being given, now they're really cutting back and they're asking the cafeterias, the schools to evaluate those and make sure that we're choosing healthier alternatives. For example, processed food, avoiding processed food in the cafeterias, basically doing everything we can to set up a generation where we reduce our chances for cancers and we reduce obesity, diabetes, and all these other medical conditions that we're seeing in these children.
Your best advice to people would be what? Check your cupboards, your refrigerator. If you don't need it, throw it away or wait for further instructions from the government on this.
Our recommendation, Isaiah, is to try to reduce and eliminate any substances that have these sorts of food coloring. It'll say on the ingredients in the back, if you look at those cereal boxes or even those Coke and beverages, it'll say made from artificial dyes, etc. So those are the things that you want to try to eliminate as much as possible. Maybe try to choose the cereal that doesn't have those dyes or those colorful, colored Fruit Loops. I'm just giving you an example, but the point is, look at your ingredients, try to minimize them as much as possible, and make your kids more aware of it. Some of these colorful things, they may not be that good for you today and also down the line.
All right, Dr. Danish Ali, Arch Point Pain Institute, even though you destroyed my childhood and my favorite, Fruit Loops, we want to thank you for coming on The Factor.